All right, distance. So finding distance between 2 points on the coordinate plane. So here is the rule for finding the distance between 2 points in the coordinate plane without graphing them. So if the points lie in the same quadrant, okay, you're going to subtract. And I will tell you what that means in a minute. If they are in different quadrants, you're going to add. Okay? So we're going to start off with, if the points lie in the same quadrant, we're going to subtract. If they're in different quadrants, we're going to add. I promise you this will make sense in a minute, okay? So as we look at the points -4 and 3 and -4 and -1, okay, we notice that when we're talking about the quadrants, remember over in my graph we have quadrant number 1, quadrant 2, 3, and 4. And then quadrant 1, it's always going to be positive, positive, okay? Quadrant 2, it's always going to be negative, positive. Quadrant 3 is always going to be negative, negative. And quadrant 4, it's always going to be positive and then negative, okay? We always have the origin in the center right here. That's the origin, 0, 0, okay? So just to kind of remind you the quadrants and when x is positive and when x is negative and when y is negative or positive. So we have we have -4, 3, and -4, -1. Well, we can definitely find that. We know that's going to be in quadrant 2, this point. And we know this one, since they're both negative, that's in quadrant 3. Okay? So if we look at our graph, so here's the 2 points right here. Okay? -4, 3 is -4, 3 is right here because I went to the left 4 and up 3. So that's that one. That's in quadrant 2. And the other point is -4, -1, which is going to be right here. I went over to the left 4 and then down 1. As in quadrant 3. So they're definitely in different quadrants, right? One's in quadrant 2, one's in quadrant 3. So we say these are different quadrants. Okay? And because they're in different quadrants, we're actually going to subtract. Okay? So as you can see, I said up here, if they're in different quadrants, we're going to add. Well, you're probably asking me, what are you adding? What are you adding? So here's the trick. Here's the trick. You notice these 2 points. You notice that -4, 3, and then -4 and -1. You're going to actually cross out the one coordinate that's the same. Okay? So the -4 and the -4 is the same. So guess what I'm just going to do? I'm just going to ignore them and I'm just going to cross them out. Okay? So since these 2 points are in different quadrants, I'm going to add. Well, this is what you're actually going to add. Once I cross the one, cross out the coordinates that are the same, I'm going to look at the ones that are not the same. Okay, so I have a 3 and -1. So what am I going to do with that 3 and -1? Because these points are in different quadrants, I'm going to add the 3 and the -1. Okay, you're asking me, well, you have a positive and a negative number. Well, that's because what you're going to do is you're going to take the absolute value of 3 and you're going to take the absolute value in -1 because you know that absolute value, okay, absolute value is always positive, okay? So I'm going to take the absolute value of 3, and I'm going to take the absolute value of -1, okay? So the absolute value of 3 is 3, okay? The absolute value of -1 is 1, okay? And what I'm going to do is, because they're in different quadrants, I'm going to add them, Okay, I'm going to add the 3 and the 1. So I'm going to add the 3 and the 1, 3 plus 1, okay? So the distance between these 2 points is going to be 4, because 3 plus 1 is 4. So I can check between these 2 points. Is it 4? 1, 2, 3, 4. The distance is 4 units. I remember when we talked about negative and positives in our integer unit, and I said if one point is above 0 and 1 point is below 0, well, you're going to add the 2 because 1's above and 1's below. So this point is 1 from the x-axis, and this point is 3 above the x-axis, so you would add the 2 together, which is 4, okay? So if the points are in different quadrants, you're going to add the values that are not the same. So remember, you're crossing out the 2 coordinates that are going to be the same. In this case, the x-coordinate was the same, so I crossed out the negative 4. And because they were different quadrants, this point is 2, this point's 3, so I'm going to add the values together, okay? Take the absolute value and add. So that's when they're in different quadrants. Okay, so let's look at 2, 1 and 2, 5. Okay, so here we go over here. 2, 1 is over here. Okay. I'm going to take my green pen this time. Okay. And 2, 1 is over here because I'm going to go 1, 2. Here's 2, 1 right here. Okay. You notice 2, 1 is in my first quadrant. 2, 1 is in my first quadrant. Okay. And then I'm going to go over, for 2, 5, I'm going to go over 1, 2, and then I'm going to go up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, over 2, 1, 2, and then up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right here. Okay, that's 2, 5. All right. So you notice that 2, 5 is also in quadrant 1, right? It's also in quadrant 1. So that means that if it's in the same quadrant up here, and I told you, if it's the same quadrant, what are we going to do to the values? We're going to subtract. So again, you're going to cross out the ones that are the same. So in 2, 1 and 2, 5, the 2's are the same, so I'm going to cross them out. Okay? And I'm going to notice I got a 1 and a 5. So what am I going to do with the 1 and the 5? I'm going to subtract the 1 and the 5. So all I'm going to do is do 5 minus 1. You always want to put the bigger number first, obviously, okay? So 5 minus 1 is going to be 4. So the difference, or the distance of those 2 points is 4. And we're also going to put this as they are in the same quadrants. So if the points are in the same quadrants, you're going to subtract, okay? So over here, you can check. Well, here's the points that we did. So we subtracted. And we can count, double check, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 4, they're 4 apart, okay? All right. So then the next part is use the graph to find the distance between 2 different points. Now this is pretty easy because all you got to do is find the 2 points, so E and G, and just count the units. That's all you're doing, really. That's all you're doing. So you can do this by yourself because E and G, here's E and here's G. You're just going to count how many between 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If I can see that closely, it should be about 5 units. So the distance between E and G is 5, and that's all I got to do. So this part, you can find the points and count the number of units in between. That's super, super easy, okay? So you do this part on your own. That's easy, okay? This next part, however, okay, I'm going to do a few with you, and then you can do some on your own. Reminding you of the rule. Remember, if the points lie in the same quadrant, you're going to subtract. If they lie in the different quadrants, you're going to add, okay? All right, so let's take a look at down here. So 7, -2, and 11, -2. Okay, so 7, -2, that's in the fourth quadrant. 11 and -2 is also in the fourth quadrant. So if it's the same, then guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to subtract. Okay, so I'm going to cross out the -2s because they're the same. And I'm going to subtract the 11 minus 7. So those points are going to be 4 units apart. Okay, let's look at this one. 6, 4, and 6, -8. Well, 6, 4 is in the first quadrant. And then 6, -8, that's going to be in the fourth quadrant. Well, they're different. So they're different quadrants. So I'm going to actually add, okay? So again, you're crossing out the 6. Those are the same. Cross out the ones that are going to be the same. The numbers are the same. I'm going to take the 4 and the -8. Well, I'm taking the absolute value of 4 and the absolute value of -8. And I'm going to add. So I'm going to add 4 plus 8. And these 2 points are 12 units apart. Okay? 8 and -10. 8, -10 is going to be in quadrant 4. Okay? 5, -10 is also in quadrant 4. So what do we do? They're in the same quadrant. So we are going to subtract. Again, I'm going to cross out the -10s. And I'm subtracting 8 minus 5. 8 minus 5 gives me 3 units apart. Okay? -2, -6. Well, that's in quadrant 3. And -2, 5, that's going to be in quadrant 2. They're in this different quadrant. So what am I going to do? I'm going to subtract. What do I subtract? Again, I'm going to cross out the ones that are the same. And I'm going to did I say subtract? I meant add. And if they're in the different quadrants, you're going to add, okay? So you're going to add. This point is in quadrant 3. This point is in quadrant 2. So I'm going to add the numbers. They're not crossed out, okay? Because I crossed out the -2s. They're the same. So I'm going to add what's left. So 6 and 5, okay? 6 plus 5 gives me 11, okay? Okay, you try these on your own, these two right here, okay? You go ahead and do these two, okay? And then you try the bottom, this one right here, total distance from here to here and then to here. So actually you are find the distance between these 2 points, right? And then these 2 points, and then you're gonna add the 2 together. Okay, so for example, I'll just do this one. So these 2 points right here, 7, -2, and 7, 4. Okay, this is in quadrant 4. Okay, and this is in quadrant 1. So they're the different quadrants. So what's the same is going to be the 7s are the same. So I ignore them, right? So I'm going to actually add. They're in the different quadrants again. I'm going to add the 2 and the 4. So what's 2 plus 4? Between these two is going to be what? 2 plus 4 is 6. So between these 2 points, it's 6 units, right? Okay. All right. Then you're going to take then you're going to compare these 2 points. Okay. This is in quadrant 1. This is also in quadrant 1. And so if they're in the same quadrants, then you're going to subtract the coordinates that are not the same. So 4 is the same. So I'm going to subtract 7 and the 5. So 7 minus 5 is going to be 2. And then the total distance would be 8. Okay? So just give it give this one a try. Give it a shot. We're going to go over in class. Don't worry if you're not getting it yet. Okay? If you're not sure how to do it this way, what I just showed you, then graph it. You can always graph the points and then count the units between them. You can also do that. Okay? So again, this is going to be your distance notes, okay? Make sure, again, you complete this middle section, okay? And the ones that I highlighted. All right, and we will talk about distance in class.